Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who's going to be reviewing No Caps, Glass Beach, Plastic Death. The album Plastic Death by the band Glass Beach. When I said the name of the band to my daughter, she said, "Ew, that's gross. I just have an image of a whole bunch of glass all ground up and having your feet cut." And I had the opposite image. I had the image of a completely long, huge, unbroken surface of glass, totally smooth at the side of an ocean. Tell me in the comments, do you imagine the glass beach being little tiny pieces of glass that cut you, or something smooth and unearthly? I almost didn't review this album, so you might not know this, but I take all my notes on a notes app, right? I'm one take Skippy. I just do one take and I don't edit. That's what I do here. But when I'm taking notes, I just all these notes in my notes app, and there's probably 50 albums that I've started to review and then stop, including this one. So I made it through about 3 or 4 songs, and I'd done a little bit of research, and I found out that they set up some kind of alternate reality game. And I don't know. I just got I don't know if I can hang. I don't know if I can hang with these musicians. I don't know if I can hang with something so it's not. My problem isn't nerdy, right? I'm the nerdiest dude in the world, right? I mean, I've got this right next to me. I've got R2D2 right next to me. Okay, I've got a Magikarp thing that a student made for me. Okay, I'm not kind of nerdy. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take this down so you can see. I don't have a problem with being a nerd, right? But there's some times when it gets mixed in with art where it feels like the artistry is serving the nerddom and not the other way around. So I just wasn't into it. But I kept getting requests from you, my auditors. And the thing is you're usually right. You're usually right. So if you think that I should review something, or if you think I would have something interesting to say about something, you usually know better than I do on my first pass. So there were 4 crucial listens that I want to focus on. The first one was my aborted listen. I'll tell you why. And then I went back to it a second time, after having read the lyrics. And after having read the lyrics, it all kind of came through because I didn't really pick up any of the lyrics the first time I listened. Then there's the third time, which is just one whole straight hour at the gym on the elliptical, just listening to the album and learning to enjoy it. And then the final listen I'd like to talk about is the one here. So I'm at my office. I have to go to a meeting. The most frustrating meeting I could possibly have to go to, an all-day workshop that's going to teach me how to be a leader from a leadership position they have forcibly removed me from. They have forcibly eliminated that position. So I'm a little bit of a grumpy guy right now, but that's okay, because on the way here, while driving, listening to this album, a lot of things became very clear to me about why this album is great, and maybe why it speaks to you, and maybe why it speaks to me. This is, much like the Beatles' last song, very now and then. It is very much of the now. It is very much an album that could only have come out in 2024. At the same time, there's so many aspects of it which are extremely 90s, but not 90s in kind of a throwback feel, not 90s oh, I'm going to go to a party and wear extra large jeans and I'm a 90s guy. Look at my frosted tips. Which, I don't like my haircut right now. I could have frosted tips. Could be the lead singer of Sugar Ray right now. God damn, I hate what happened to my hair. It's okay, it'll grow out. But, and that's what interests me, really, is musically and lyrically, it's very now and it's very then. Now, musically, the now of it's very clear. It is obsessively anti-genre, right? It jumps around between genres. Part of what helped me to understand this band better is when I read someone who just matter of fact called them an emo band. And I was like, oh, hey, okay, I can get with that, because I'm just thinking rock, because it's kind of rock, it's kind of prog rock, they go into a sort of a black metal sound, kind of a Metallica sound, and all of this leads to the other very of the now part of the musicianship, which is it's very, very modular, which means there's different parts of songs which reflect different emotional states that can be sort of broken up. So one song made up of many different moods and modes. And that's great. But in order to talk to you about the 90s-ness of them, I have to take you back to the past, to a time that did not suck ass, the 1990s. And that's when I grew up, okay? And I want to tell you a story about why this album interests me, because, and you might do this when you get older, I can sort of imagine how I would have felt at 16, 17 years old if this album had come out when I was that age. What would have happened? What would have been the discourse? Mind you, this is pre-internet discourse, so we're not talking about discourse with people. We're talking about discourse with friends. So I want to talk to you about two cars. My car, Skye's car, 1993 Ford Windstar, 95 Ford Windstar, okay? The Wounded Buffalo, that was the name of my car. And then I want to talk to you about Ben's car. It was maybe a, I don't know, 89, 90 Toyota, I want to say Corolla, okay? So these cars were very different, not just because one was a sedan and one was a minivan, but because of the music that was on the inside. Now, Ben and I were in the same band, okay? And Ben's friends were my friends and my friends were Ben's friends. But over time, a divide that happened in the band, that happened in the friend group, was expressed by the different attitude we had towards music. My car was very cool. It was about kind of slacker rock cool. His car was a lot more about virtuosity. It was a lot more about technical proficiency in music. Now, this is a divide that doesn't always have to be against each other, but especially if you're in a band and you're trying to make music together, it can be that way. So my car would be all, Neil Young and Pavement, and Ben's car would be all Counting Crows and like Blind Melon, and then like Ben Folds, okay, like Leo Kottke. We're starting to get, a little bit more kind of far out there. And there would be this sort of general belief that Ben's car was just a little too full of like, even a little bit of Dave Matthews. Even back then, there's a little bit of Dave Matthews. Ben, you watch my channel sometimes. Dude, don't front. No cap, as the kids would say these days. You listen to Dave Matthews in your car. And my car was too cool for school. We were just as lame, just in a different way. And like this would be this sort of permanent fight. But every once in a while, there would be a band that could sort of unite us. So in Skye's car, we really liked this band called Honcho Overload, a very underground band out of Champaign, Illinois. And Ben's car didn't like it, but they had an offshoot, a band called Hum, which had a one-hit wonder in the 90s. And Ben's car liked Hum, and my car liked Hum. My car liked Blind Melon, Ben's car liked Blind Melon. The biggest connector was, of course, Radiohead. Was 1997 when OK Computer came out. I was in Ben's car when we bought that album at midnight at Tower Records, okay, in Boston, all right? How 90s can you get? What's up, old man? Real picture of me, okay? That was the album where it was technically proficient enough to please the Benites, and it was cool and dissociated and cynical enough for the Skyites, right? You kind of able to mix those together. And eventually, both cars would go too far. Ben's car would start to like Muse, which was like Radiohead, but just a little too much. And my car got more into Portishead, which was a lot, not exactly the same thing as Radiohead, obviously, musically, but a lot of that kind of similar soundscape and mentality about the world. The one thing Ben and Skye's car could agree is that Damon's car was just crazy. Damon's a very good friend of ours, awesome guy, great musician, but he went all the way to the other side. All the way through, we're talking like Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Alan Parsons Project and a whole bunch of stuff. You hang out in his car, you need to think about every single song that you're going to listen to because you're going to be counting out different rhythms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all this kind of like absolute technical proficiency nerdery, okay? The reason I say all this is that Glass Beach is exactly the kind of band that would have, in a 90s car situation, pleased us all and pissed us all off all at the same time. It would have been in that same zone as OK Computer. It would have had a space in Skye's car and Ben's car, and dare I say, even Damon's car. I tease. I don't think Damon watches my show, but maybe I'll send him a link. I talked about this. I remember in French class him trying to explain to me how the difference between 6/8 and 3/4. I still don't know. Dude was so metal, he wore a hockey jersey of the goalie, Andy Moog, who played for the Boston Bruins at the time. I grew up near Boston. But he didn't know anything about hockey. He just wore it because he loved the synthesizer so much. He was a real one. So that's sort of musically, that's the world that we're in. It's simultaneously overly virtuosic for me and perhaps overly cool or overly sort of post-consumer. Like there's a real sort of 90s vibe with the singing at times. At times the singing gets to be very gorgeous, but at times it's sort of a grumbly sing talk. Very cool. It's a very cool mixture. And if I could give a higher compliment to this album, I don't think I could. Now, you didn't grow up in those times, so you don't know. You have the internet, so you can discuss amongst yourselves, and you realistically don't ever have to really interact with music that you don't always really like. But I love the idea of this existing as a cassette or a CD and getting into Ben's car and like looking through all this stuff and being like, oh, hey, you got Plastic Death too? Yeah, cool. Let's listen to it while we drive to Woburn, the 7-Eleven. Now, lyrically, it's also very, very of the now and of the 90s, primarily because, okay, first of all, when we talk about things, when I say too proggy, okay, this is a very subjective opinion, okay, but there's kinds of music and kinds of singing and playing which reach a level of technical proficiency that goes, in my opinion, too far. It's a little too precise, it's maybe a little too overworked, it's maybe a little bit too intricate, it's maybe a little bit too much for people who are trying to listen to something that makes them go, wow, as opposed to, whoa, you know? And that's what I'm looking for in music, is more whoa, and a lot less, wow, okay? So lyrically it can get that way at times too. Hexadecimal hues. That's a lyric. But really, come on. Hey, we all live. Can we be honest with ourselves? Okay, Zoomers? Okay, Generation A? This is a Generation Xer telling you we got nothing. We're still reliving the 70s. We're still in the moment of punk. Okay, Plastic Death. Plastic was a huge theme in punk music. Plastic was a huge part of the post-World War II consumer boom and the baby boom that led to so much success and prosperity up until the oil crisis in 1974, 1975. They completely destroyed the world economy, okay? Plastic, that's what plastic means. And that's what it has meant since then. And that's what it meant to me in the 90s, and that's what it means to you in 2024. Now, maybe you have a different word for it. Maybe you think about it as like that great big plastic garbage patch that's in the middle of the ocean. But let's say since Earth Day, 1970, right? That was the first Earth Day, I think. Check me if I'm wrong. We are totally impotent environmentalists, okay? That's who we are. We are impotently raging about the environment. And we have been back in the 90s. It was Midnight Oil. And it was me going to the Earth Day concert at Foxborough Stadium. Okay? And it's listening to music like this and getting mad at Taylor Swift for having a private jet or criticizing whatever it is. Okay? We're just stuck in this crappy plastic world that is destroying itself. And we've known it since 1970, and we fight against it every once in a while when we're young, and then we get older, and we just sort of say, that's the way it goes. My favorite thing about this album, I would say, is, first of all, it's the first entry into Best Album Cover of 2024. It may be. Because I read somewhere that people refer to this as a ghost. It's not a ghost. It's a mayfly, which is a theme that comes through this album over and over and over again. And a mayfly is a fascinating thing because it is primarily known for its short life. This is a very existentialist album, both sort of technically and spiritually. And the idea of a mayfly, like this little tiny thing that lives near the water and is born and dies, and its entire life and death are grotesquely and absurdly short and pointless, that is, in fact, the truth of humanity as well, no matter how many YouTube subscribers we have. Okay? Speaking of which, if life is pointless, subscribe, smash the like bucket, type AVAA in the comments. That means awesome video as always. I will always give you a heart on that. Okay? But only do that if life is absurdly pointless. Okay? And of course, the meaning of life comes from its pointlessness. We'll talk about that later, maybe. All right? So this mayfly, this ghost mayfly, is the feeling of the album. okay? And it really, really works thematically with the lyrics of the album. Because it's with the water. There's like deep water fish and whales and water, water, water everywhere. I feel like I'm in some kind of, and the cover image does a great job of communicating this fact to you. Thank God, right? Hey, I'm an old guy who's going to tell you about, I used to buy CDs at Tower Records. Shut up, Professor Skye. There are still great artists making great images that serve as key images to take you through an album. That you see that image and immediately you understand what is going to happen in this whole record. You got it. You see that? What's that thing? It's water. It's ghostly. It's weird. We're on the banks of a river. We are in the woods. We are in the Pacific Northwest. Now, this band is apparently from Seattle, like many other great bands, like the Sonics. Do you know the Sonics? Like the original Seattle hipsters. Have listened to the Sonics if you've never heard them before. And the thing about this is when you say Pacific Northwest and you say Plastic Death, I immediately go to Wrapped in Plastic, which is the name of his... God, I'm about to sound so 90s. You thought I couldn't get more 90s than talking about taking a break from working at Blockbuster to go pick up the new Radiohead CD at Tower Records? This is how 90s I'm going to get, okay? Wait, did I just forget how 90s I'm going to get? This is like, how am I possibly going to forget this? I just had like the funniest point. Man, that's the problem with going. Okay, well I'll get back to it. Man, this is why I'm one take Skippy, because I don't even remember what I was going to say. That's the most 90s thing I could possibly say. But I will say this. So this kind of 90s-ness of it, okay? This feeling that we have that we're in the Pacific Northwest. Oh, I just remembered. I used to go to Tower Records and buy zines, which were little magazines that were made on Xerox machines. This was before the internet. This is very much like before blog posts. They were like blog posts, but on paper. Very cool. You know about this. Your generation's cool to that, assuming you're not my generation. I used to go and buy Twin Peaks zines at Tower Records. The name of the zine was Wrapped in Plastic, referring to the cadaver of Laura Palmer that washed up in the Pacific Northwest in the TV show Twin Peaks. And I think I read somewhere in Genius that there's a specific reference to Laura Palmer in this. I imagine that just the 90s and especially Twin Peaks must weigh heavy in the collective consciousness of the underground cool art scene of the Pacific Northwest. I had this bizarre 90s. So like there was a time where Twin Peaks was not hot anymore, and before it had its renaissance. So I actually remember my friend Keith, he never had a car. He always drove in my car, both spiritually and physically, and lead singer of the band. Like he and I saved up money to buy the Twin Peaks box set. And I actually put up all the money, but he made a wooden box in shop class that we would keep it in, and we would trade back and forth our box of VHS of Twin Peaks. Anyways, I told you, how 90s can you possibly get? But you know, like that, the mystery, the atmosphere of Twin Peaks, of the Pacific Northwest, mixed in with this impotent environmentalism that we all possess and that we all express, mixed in with a bunch of French-style existentialism, that's what we have all here. Actually sort of reminds me of one of my favorite jokes from the TV show Portlandia, where they refer to Portland as the city where the 90s never ended. And that is a lot about the Pacific Northwest in a way like Vermont and Colorado are sort of places where they say, and like Northern California, like where the 60s never ended. I think it's safe to say that because so much of the aesthetic and the mentality of what we consider to be the 90s came from the Pacific Northwest, it's not that they are staying the 90s, it's that the 90s became Pacific Northwesty. I don't know. As a final note, I'm going to refer to the lead singer by the name of Jay. I have looked up and I have found credible sources from the band, which refers to multiple different pronouns I want to respect, and in order to respect, when you have conflicting information, go with what you know. I'm just going to say Jay, which is funny because Jay reminds me at times, perhaps impractically, of a band so Skye car that I didn't even like them because they were too Skye car. Dinosaur Jr., the most kind of mumbly, cool, slack. I mean, Pavement was pop compared to Dinosaur Jr. And at times, I forget what Jay's full name is. There's some kind of stage and like Stupendous Jay or Wonderful Jay or Cosmically Dutiful Jay Miracle. I don't know what. Something there. But reminds me of Jay Mascis of Dinosaur Jr. with a sort of talk through grumbly coolness. Okay. So let me give you an example of it. Yeah. I already asked you to like the video, but I'm now going to make a couple jokes because we're talking about consumer hellscapes in this album. A lot of this album's about consumer hellscapes. So I turned my mug into a Stanley Cup. My magic trick. You want to see it again? Okay, I'm going to turn it into a Stanley Cup. If a tiny plastic Stanley Cup and a hand-crocheted magic carp does not get you to like this video, I'm sorry. Just go watch inferior content. This is the content at the highest level. All right, I'm going to give you an example song. My favorite song off the album, click above Picasso's Lovers for the track Cul de sac, which literally means in French, ass of the bag. It's true. Cul means ass. It also means bottom, but okay. This is great. This has everything, right? This is that whole like, why not both? Why not have an album that's both Ben's car and Skye's car with a little bit of Damon's car thrown in? Okay, we have kind of Purple Haze style snare drums, like a lot of snare hits on here. The drumming throughout is great. It's the greatest debate in a Skye car and a Ben car is what the drummer should be doing. So I looked up most to drummers like Ralph Molina of Neil Young, Charlie Watts, the Rolling Stones, Ringo, the Beatles, very simple drummers who played stuff that I could play. Whereas Ben's car liked a lot of drummers, whatever, like the guy from Rush, sort of super virtuosic drummers who could play drums that I couldn't play. And so in my insecurity, I usually just said that kind of drumming was bad and dumb because I couldn't do it. But that really, isn't the case here. It's like not overworked. For the most part, it's really quite tasteful. At times, there's so much happening, it even reminded me of Frank Zappa. Take a guess. Whose car does Zappa belong in? And then there's this great fragility in Jay's voice here. There's this guitar that's playing. This is why I had to listen to this album a few times, because I could easily have been turned off by the try-hardness of the guitar here. Just so much is happening. It's like sort of spidering all over the place, but the way that it mixes with this beautiful fragility of Jay's voice. And the nutty drumness is fine, and some digital distortion comes in, and then there's even some like emo style release in the singing, and then I swear to God, there's tap licks, like Van Halen, like that kind of stuff going on. It's just gorgeous. And at points it gets like very tasteful and very noisy at the same time. Little compressed, crunchy sound details. And then we're just total 100% Radiohead lyrics right here. We're circling a cul-de-sac. Every single day circling the cul-de-sac. Alligator eyes staring out of storm drains if you look at the lyrics to the song. Oh my God, what's the song about the alligators in the sewers by Radiohead? It's not Nude. Is it Nude? It might be Nude. Walking in your wake, circling the refrain, I know it's not going to last. The modern earth was born in a 2-car garage, I know it's not going to last. Awesome. Thumbs way up. This gets a 90s kid seal of approval for excellent 90s style lyrics. Excellent. Tom York, disaffected, everything's going to end, so let's phrase it in a way that makes you go, cool. The modern earth was born in a 2-car garage. Yes. I assume Jay writes the lyrics. Jay, absolutely. Okay? Sincerity is anodyne. Okay, trying a little too hard using the word anodyne, but that's fine. I want to be your TV girl, plastic wrap on bladder work. And I don't know. I think this is that reference to Laura Palmer. Sometimes my arms bend back, All your love went away, all the mayflies died in a day. That's the way that we are, that's the place that we're in. And then there's like a soaring guitar solo at the end. Yeah, man. Let's do this. Let's have a guitar solo. Let's have some drums going all over the place. The desert of the real was overcast by its map. I know it's not going to last. Listen, I've never gotten into Baudrillard. He's the guy who wrote about the desert of the real in this book, La Société de la Consommation. So I'm not going to talk about this too much. I'll put this next to Sartre and Foucault, who I think both definitely have a place here. It's interesting, we're talking about this kind of desert of the real and consumer society that we're living in our Stanley Cups. But that's my example song off the album, and I really enjoy it, and I can listen to it anytime. And the first time I heard it, I didn't like it. So what are you going to do? That's what's beautiful. That's why I hate negative reviews. Because, first of all, let's say I didn't like this, right? Let's say that I thought this was trash. I'm gonna come on here and tell you that something that someone worked this hard on is not good? You can listen to it yourself and find out it's not good. I don't even like calling this channel a review. It's analysis, damn it. It's not a reaction. What did they say? What? Sorry, I just made myself cough on my own coffee. Next track is called Coelcanth. Left Ear has this TV voice talking about Banksy and all these artists who destroy their own work and the question of permanence. And I think this is a good question about what is the nature of permanence in art. Incorrectly does not mention Marcel Duchamp, who was the granddaddy of all this, who literally made sculptures and then literally destroyed them after they were displayed. And all the ones that you see in a museum are intentional, like you, and I did this for my father. This was one of my gifts. He has Marcel Duchamp has a piece of art that's a stool with a bicycle wheel on it. If you make one of those at your home, you made an original. It's more original than the one that's sitting in the MoMA, because the one that's sitting in the MoMA is an artifact. It's nothing. If you admire the artist, you will disrespect the fact that that is sitting in a museum. Anyways. An interesting question to set up this whole thing, because, if we are all mayflies, what does it mean? If Stupendous J, or whatever J's stage name, I think it's magnificent. If J is just a mayfly who's going to live and going to die, does this art make any difference? This piano comes in, again, sort of, I'll call them prog rhythms, which just means anything that's not 4/4. It's almost musically at a certain time. The ghost rots away in the embrace of its own gaze, in automatic cycles and habits. Goodbye, Mayfly, flies from still water, how long have I loved you? A lot of these themes, the temporality of life. It is also kind of optimistic, because coelacanths, and I looked this up, coelacanths are these deep water fish that we thought were extinct, but they're not. Did you know there's 20,000 gray wolves in America? I thought they were extinct in America. There's 20,000. Okay, 18,000 of those are in Alaska, but still, that gives us 2,000 wolves right here. Nice little delicate double hi-hat moment here, guitar lines, then a totally blown out synth solo, wooden mallet, I'm telling you, all this modular stuff, and then this really big playful ending with these offbeat, off-tuned hits. Oh my God. I have to go to that meeting soon. It's okay. I'm going to do this. You know what? I'm going to be late to that meeting. Part of being a good leader is respecting the time of the people who you are leading. That's why, anyways. I don't represent my college, by the way. I do work at a college. I do not represent them in any way. This is just me talking here. Okay. Motions, cool, kind of slippery sounds, more kind of goofy rhythms. And here it reminded me at times of like New Order even. Like the synthesizer sounds remind me of New Order. The sort of like thin coolness of New Order. More that kind of 90s mumbly singing. Again, I haven't really picked up any lyrics at all the whole time I'm listening. And then I went back and read the lyrics. In an interview, Jay said, the dehumanization which capitalism imposes, chasing success like some kind of ruthless animal, that's what we are. And then, of course, Jay quotes Sartre, huis clos, no exit. Or closed exit is a better way to put it. Or exit that is incapable of opening? It's hard to say. Hell is other people damned to abject heads. So, because I'm a French professor, because it's my job, and because I don't get to teach French very much, if you don't know the context of Hell is Other People, allow me to tell you, okay? So these three people are allowed into a room, okay? They know that they're dead and that they are going to hell. And they don't know, and they're expecting, like, they're expecting, the teeth and the gnashing and the fire and the brimstone and all the Dante stuff. But instead, they just find a nicely appointed Second Empire French apartment, okay? Like the kind of place that they would live if they were in the ruling class of France at the time, okay? Throughout the course of the play, this is how long the play is, by the way. It doesn't take much time to read, okay? 93 pages, and that's 93 pages of, like, plays. So it takes you about an hour or two to read. And you can read it in English. You don't have to read it in French. It's better in French, obviously. But it's this fascinating thing where there's like a love triangle where the one woman loves the other woman, but then that woman doesn't love the other woman back. She loves the one guy, and the one guy isn't into either of them. And it ends up being this question of, like, feeling watched and having to be... That's really the thing, is when people say hell is other people, they usually just mean like, oh, I don't want to go to this meeting. Hell is other people. It's more about the feeling of constantly being watched and having your behavior judged and observed at all times. That's the torture that they're in. Anyways, in this sort of Twilight Zone book, before Twilight Zone existed, they realize at the end that this is their torture, that they are each other's torture device, just being in the same room with the same two people for eternity. Le bronze, il le caresse. This is the main character, the male character. He caresses the bronze statue. Eh bien, voici le moment. Le bronze est là, je le contemple et je comprends que je suis en enfer. Je vous dis que tout était prévu. The bronze was there, I contemplate it, and I understand that I am in hell. I told you that everything was told already. Tous ces regards qui me mangent, he says later, all these looks that eat me. Ah, vous n'êtes que deux, je vous croyais beaucoup plus nombreuses. Ah, there are only two of you? I thought that you were much more numerous. Je n'aurais jamais cru. Vous vous rappelez? Okay, he's like talking like all different directions. This is the second last page of the book. Le soufre, le boucher, le grill. Ah, quelle plaisanterie. Pas besoin de grill. So he's talking about like the scaffolds and the tortures that you could possibly have. No need for any of those torture devices. L'enfer, c'est les autres. Hell is other people. But that's not the last word of the play. It continues on with Estelle, the woman who loves him, but he does not love. Mon amour, laisse-moi, elle est entre nous, je ne peux pas t'aimer quand elle me voit. So he says, leave me alone. I can't possibly love you when someone else sees me. And then they keep talking, and Estelle gets so crazy that, spoiler alert, she tries to kill the other woman in jealousy. But you can't kill somebody who's already dead. I know that's a lyric. I forget what song. Morte, 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 ni le couteau, ni le poison, ni la corde, c'est déjà fait, comprends-tu? Et nous sommes ensemble pour toujours. Okay, you can't kill me with a rope, you can't kill me with poison, we are together forever. And she laughs. And the most important part, see if you can read it, even if you don't speak French. Hopefully you can understand the last words. The last words of this play are not, okay, hell is other people. The last words of Huis clos by Jean-Paul Sartre are, eh bien, continuons. Which means, all right, let's keep going. That's the end. That's the end. That's the hell. That all you can do in a situation that we are in is just keep going. In the immortal words of Dorianus Facetius, just keep swimming. That's essentially what we have to do. Except just keep swimming is a statement of damnation. Welcome to Professor Skye's Disney Hour. All right? It's great. I want to find another way out. A lot of this, I want to kill the competition, go through the motions. This feels like, to me, perhaps Jay had just read Huis clos, and this is a song about Huis clos. Great keyboards and low voice, and that changes to this whole emo thing. Slip Under the Door is the next track. Woo! How many genres we got here? These blasting sounds, cool sounds. Tom York likes singing. This... Is that a banjo? Is that a banjo? It might be a banjo in the back. I don't know. And then it gets sort of like affected, like, this is where the album started losing me the first time, because I'm like, is this heavy metal? Is this like prog metal? Oh my. And then it gets this like super Muse-like part, kind of playful. Ooh, I love this part though. This kind of like chugging guitar with a little reverb. Very, very cool. Metallica bit. And there might even be, I put Foucault back there as well, because there's some Foucauldian style stuff here. Is the body a property? Take control of your property, mutilation, autonomy, reclamation of territory. I don't know. It sounds to me that this is about some trans themes, about the who owns a body, and is your body your own body, and if your body is your own body, do you have autonomy over your own body because you own it? And if you have the right to do it, what can you do to your own body, and what is approved of by the people in society? Guitar Song is a song I gave up on, which is funny because I like this song. But I gave up on it because it's called Guitar Song, and then it's got guitars in it. So I'm like, all right, these aren't like serious musicians. They're not like trying to like say something. They're just like doing exercises in style, which is what I thought, and I was wrong. You know, all these great layers, real virtuosity. The lyrics are very meta. You know, we want what will bore us. All verse, chorus, green light, red light. I don't know. It is a little too meta, but with the third and fourth listen, I like this song a lot. Rare Animal, it's got this cool left channel, clean guitar, and the chugging and growing and these interlocking rhythms. More kind of grunge sounding here. Two different styles here. And then it even talks about the 90s. Spring of 99, Fire Delta in your back porch. And then there's this total emo part. Thinking of you. Is that banjo in the background? That's my new gimmick on this channel. Is when I talk about banjos, I don't open my mouth. Is that banjos? I'm not trying to do a Biden impersonation. It's like simultaneously very jammy, and again, I just keep thinking of Jay Mascis. I keep thinking of cool, disaffected 90s singers who aren't trying hard, despite the fact that Jay has a beautiful voice and can try very hard and sing very well. And now I'm talking like Seinfeld. I once dated a woman who said that the easiest way to turn her off was to do my Seinfeld impersonation. You'd think that would have stopped me more, but I am, if anything, not committed to a bit. Whale Fall is a funny song because this is a song where I liked where it ended, but I sort of thought it should have been an instrumental song. The interacting guitar and xylophone. It's very kind of low key and cool though. Very Radiohead bit in the middle. Then we get to the song Puppy. I don't like it. I don't like this song. Bleh. Blah, 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 blah. Like when this album goes too far, it goes into that Dave Matthews territory. This goes there. I like the fun bit and falsetto, but I don't like it. Then we get to The Killer. I'm not a big fan of this either. Sort of, again, now that I'm in Dave Matthews, it sort of reminds me of the song Crash Into Me. A lot of bad stories about that song as well. But at the same time, you know, the third, fourth time listening, I had kind of an emotional moment listening to it. Just beautiful, moving guitar and voice, and the dynamism of Jay's voice. You know, from overworked to slacker is very impressive. The CIA, beautiful opening, falsetto over bass. This is cool because it's got a sort of restraint that the rest of the album doesn't have. So it's sort of showing off some nice restraint here. Settles into all, ooh, Tool. Tool is the ultimate Ben Carr band, okay? Now, I saw Tool 4 times in concert just because I went to Lollapalooza and all that stuff. I respect the hell out of Tool, but I would never put Tool in my car. Ever would you ever hear Tool in my car. That's, at times, this is like a Tool-style 80s track. So, again, to be clear, Tool's a good band, but not in my car. You get me? You smell what I'm saying? Little drum solo bit here, which is cool, and another Metallica bit. 200 is the next song. It's a prequel to the movie 300. God damn it, it's not even a joke. It's just bad. Cool, sweet piano, guitar, kind of jazzy, far away. Just the cries of an animal, but it builds really tastefully, and this rising and falling little run on the synthesizer and guitar, cacophony around big horns. Comatose, very cool guitar, voice and synthesizers. Why did I write the word birdhouse? I guess that's one of the lyrics. I really enjoy the interaction of the strings and the other instruments. And then this is where, you know, really I just get into this album now. On that third and fourth listen, I just get really into it, especially like the SOS. They're singing SOS and it sounds almost like Morse code in the back. Super, okay, probably the best part of the entire album is on this song with these low synthesizers. This is kind of this fun part with these low synthesizers and the singing. It's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. The album ends with the track Abyss Angel, which I assume is what this is supposed to be. I assume that that's supposed to be the Abyss Angel. You know, it's interesting because a mayfly is on the surface of the water and a coelacanth and a whale, and the abyss is in the bottom. So it's a very... What bugs me about ARGs and stuff is that there's like an answer, and I would sort of prefer there not to be an answer. I prefer there to be a feeling and an atmosphere. So I don't want there to be an answer saying that, like, this is a... I don't want this to be... What's that thing in Jurassic World? What's the name of the dinosaur in Jurassic World? Indominus Rex? God damn, I'm good. I just watched the Lindsay Ellis thing on Nebula. I'm not supporting Nebula, but I did sign up for Nebula. I mean, I'm not supporting Nebula either. It's just... I finally broke down. Oh, by the way, my sponsor is still Don't Gamble. Never gamble. Don't ever gamble on sports, ever. They're trying to get you. They're trying to take your money and make you a gambler. Don't listen to them. Fight against them. Boycott ESPN. Boycott the NFL. Boycott all of it. Do not gamble. Okay. So I don't want there to be an answer for this thing. I don't want there to be an answer about water in this album. I want this just to be about water. I want it to have feelings. Because I understand the feelings. I don't want to understand the facts. Sweet guitar, just sweeping feel, the full scope of the album. The whole thing has this great feel and this is why people want me to review it. The problem with what I do is that I review 3 to 4 albums, sometimes 5 albums a week, which means I have to do a lot of kind of quick processing. This feels like it's the kind of album that you want to have in your car and you want to put on the tape and flip over the tape and get to the next song and listen to it and just listen to it with your friends while you're driving to Woburn, okay? That's what you want to do. And I have to kind of cycle through. So I'm glad that I stuck with it to really listen to it and really enjoy it. All right, I have to go to my meeting, which, how 90s is it, by the way? I have a job that gives me health insurance, dental insurance, eye insurance, very reasonable hours, but I'm going to be complaining about having to go to a meeting for a few hours. You know? That's the thing about the late 90s, you know, like Matrix and Fight Club and there's a third one, Office Space. You know, all this like white collar blues. Just shut up, Skye. I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate to have this job. I'm very fortunate to have to go to a stupid meeting. Okay? I know that. You know, when I was in the 90s, I knew that it was the high point. Like I knew. I used to say this is the high point of American culture. Like not by what we made, but just with our relative ease and comfort. Like I knew that we couldn't stay there forever. Hopefully we get to a better place. What am I doing here? Have you noticed how the sun has risen since I've been here? All right, there's the camera.